There is a dangerous lie that has been whispered into the modern soul that caring about your appearance is shallow. But what if neglecting it is the real superficiality? What if the way you present yourself to the world is not vanity but visibility of the psyche? Your appearance is not just fabric and skin. It is symbol. It is language. Long before you speak, you are interpreted. The world meets your posture before it hears your philosophy. It studies your eyes before it listens to your ideas. And if you have abandoned your appearance, you have unconsciously abandoned a part of your authority. To become addicted to your appearance does not mean worshipping the mirror. It means respecting the vessel that carries your spirit. It means understanding that the outer world responds to symbols, and you are the primary symbol of your own life. When you wake up and choose discipline over disorder, when you groom yourself, dress with intention, walk with awareness, you are not impressing others. You are reminding yourself that you matter, that your presence has weight, that you are not accidental. Neglect is often disguised as humility, but there is nothing humble about shrinking your presence. There is nothing spiritual about looking like you have surrendered to chaos. Psyche thrives on order. And when your outer world reflects structure, your inner world follows. Your appearance is the architecture of your identity. If you dress like someone waiting to be chosen, you will feel like someone waiting. If you dress like someone who chooses, you will begin to act accordingly. The unconscious mind responds to signals, and every morning you are sending it instructions. Addiction, in this sense, means devotion. It means you refuse to walk into the world unconsciously. You refuse to present yourself as an afterthought. You decide that your body is not a random container, but a temple of intention. When you care for your appearance, you are not chasing validation. You are cultivating alignment. Your outer image becomes a disciplined reflection of your inner standard. And standards change destiny. There is power in polished shoes. There is power in steady eye contact. There is power in standing tall even when your mind is uncertain, because the body teaches the mind. Act like the person you are becoming and the psyche will fall. Many people wait to feel confident before they improve their appearance. That is backwards. Confidence is built through action, through repetition. Through the daily ritual of saying, I respect myself enough to show up well. You must become addicted not to beauty, but to intentional presentation, not to perfection, but to effort, not to comparison, but to elevation. Because the world does not respond to hidden potential. It responds to visible energy. And your appearance is the first announcement of your standards. Treat it as sacred, but before you speak a single word, before you explain your beliefs, your education, or your ambitions, something else speaks for you. Your appearance moves ahead of you like a silent ambassador. It signals how you perceive yourself, how you organize your life, and how seriously you take your existence. This is not about fashion trends or physical beauty. It is about symbolism. Human beings are wired to interpret symbols, and your appearance is one of the most immediate and powerful symbols you project. The psyche does not separate the inner world from the outer world as cleanly as we like to believe. What is happening within you inevitably arranges itself externally. The way you stand reflects your relationship with pressure. The way you dress reflects your relationship with order. Even small details, clean shoes, maintained hair, deliberate posture communicate whether you see yourself as valuable or incidental. People respond not only to what you say, but to what you embody. And embodiment is visual before it is verbal. When someone consistently neglects their appearance, it is rarely just laziness. Often it reveals an unconscious belief, I do not need to be seen, or worse, I'm not worth attention. On the other hand, when someone carries themselves with precision and care, they send a different internal command. I matter. My presence has weight. The mind absorbs these signals. The body becomes both messenger and teacher. If you repeatedly show up looking disordered, your subconscious accepts disorder as identity. If you present yourself with structure, your mind begins aligning with structure. This is why appearance shapes opportunity. It is not because the world is shallow, it is because the world reads cues. We instinctively assess reliability, confidence, and discipline through visual information. A composed exterior suggests a composed interior. While this is not always perfectly accurate, it is deeply human. Your appearance becomes a psychological shorthand for your internal state. There is also a deeper layer. When you intentionally shape your appearance, you participate in conscious self-creation. You are no longer drifting through identity, you are crafting it. The act of grooming, dressing intentionally, and holding strong posture becomes ritual. And ritual has power. It stabilizes the psyche. It reinforces self-respect. It reminds you daily that you are not random, you are responsible. Even your future self is influenced by this symbolism. When you dress like the person you aspire to become, you reduce the distance between who you are and who you are growing into. The body begins rehearsing confidence. The mind follows the rehearsal. Over time, the symbol becomes reality. Your appearance is not a costume, it is a declaration. It tells the world whether you are hiding or standing forward. It tells your subconscious whether you are drifting or directing. In this way, it is profoundly psychological. You are always communicating. The only question is whether you are doing it consciously or unconsciously. The way you present yourself each day is not a superficial habit. It is a psychological training ground. Self-presentation is one of the most accessible forms of discipline because it demands consistency, awareness, and intention. When you decide that you will not step into the world carelessly, you are making a deeper decision. You will not live carelessly. The external act becomes a rehearsal for internal order. Discipline is often misunderstood as something grand and dramatic, waking at extreme hours, enduring intense routines, conquering massive goals. But true discipline is quieter. It lives in repetition. It forms in the small daily choices that seem insignificant but accumulate into identity. Choosing your clothes intentionally, maintaining grooming standards, standing upright instead of collapsing into yourself. These acts may appear simple, yet they shape how you experience yourself. The body and mind are not separate systems operating independently. They are in constant conversation. When you take time to present yourself deliberately, you are signaling to your psyche that you are worth effort. Effort is the birthplace of discipline. Each morning becomes a subtle act of self-leadership. You are telling yourself, I am in charge of how I show up. That message, repeated daily, builds internal authority. Chaos often begins externally before it settles internally. A neglected appearance can slowly normalize neglect in other areas, missed responsibilities, postponed goals, lowered standards. Disorder spreads quietly. But the opposite is also true. Order spreads. When you create structure in how you look, you begin to crave structure in how you think and act. A clean exterior makes procrastination feel out of place. A sharp presentation makes laziness feel inconsistent. The tension between your standards and your behavior pushes you toward alignment. Self-presentation also strengthens delayed gratification. It requires you to prepare before you feel ready. It asks you to invest time and care before receiving any reward. This cultivates patience and foresight, two pillars of discipline. You are no longer reacting to the day, you are preparing for it. Preparation shifts your psychology from passive to proactive. There's also resilience hidden in this practice. Some days you will not feel confident. Some days motivation will be absent. Yet, if you maintain your standard regardless of mood, you detach discipline from emotion. You prove to yourself that action does not depend on feeling. This realization is transformative. It expands beyond appearance into work, relationships, and personal growth. Over time, self-presentation becomes more than a habit. It becomes identity reinforcement. You begin to see yourself as someone who maintains standards, someone who does not collapse under pressure, someone who respects their own presence. That self-image strengthens internal stability. Inner discipline is rarely built in isolation from the physical world. It grows through embodied practice. When you consistently organize your outer form, you train your inner world to follow structure. The mirror becomes less about vanity and more about accountability. You stand before it not to seek approval, but to confirm alignment. And in that daily alignment, discipline quietly takes root. There is subtle misunderstanding that has taken root in many minds, the belief that neglecting oneself is a form of humility. People confuse shrinking with modesty, invisibility with virtue, and disorder with depth. But true humility is not the denial of your presence. It is the proper understanding of it. Neglect is not humility. It is often avoidance disguised as moral superiority. Humility does not require you to dim your light. It does not demand that you present yourself carelessly or ignore your physical existence. In fact, humility is grounded in awareness of your strengths, your flaws, and your responsibility. When you neglect your appearance under the banner of being above superficial things, you may actually be rejecting the responsibility to embody your potential fully. The psyche seeks expression. It wants integration between the inner and outer worlds. When you refuse to care for your external form, you create fragmentation. You say that your thoughts matter, but your presence does not. You claim that your spirit is important, but your body is irrelevant. This division weakens integrity. True humility integrates both. It acknowledges that while you are not the center of the universe, you are still accountable for how you show up within it. Neglect can sometimes stem from fear of being seen, fear of being judged, fear of standing out. It is easier to blend into the background and call it modesty than to risk visibility. But humility is not hiding. It is standing firmly without arrogance. It is accepting visibility without craving superiority. There is also a psychological consequence to chronic neglect. When you repeatedly treat yourself as an afterthought, your subconscious absorbs that message. You begin to internalize the belief that effort toward yourself is unnecessary. Over time, this erodes self-respect. And self-respect is not pride, it is stability. Without it, confidence becomes fragile and boundaries become weak. Caring for your appearance does not mean obsession or vanity. It means stewardship. Your body and presence are tools through which you act in the world. Maintaining them reflects gratitude and responsibility. A humble person understands that they are neither above others nor beneath themselves. They recognize their value without inflating it and their limitations without exaggerating them. Neglect, on the other hand, often masks passive resignation. It whispers, it doesn't matter. But everything you repeat becomes a pattern. If you repeatedly signal that your presence does not matter, your behavior will eventually align with that belief. You will hesitate more, speak softer, settle sooner. Humility is quiet confidence. It does not need applause, but it does not reject alignment either. It does not compete for attention, yet it does not collapse under it. When you present yourself with care and composure, you are not declaring superiority. You are honoring responsibility. You are saying, I will not misuse the life I have been given by treating it casually. To neglect yourself is not to be humble. It is to deny your role. True humility is disciplined, integrated, and self-aware. It allows you to stand fully formed in the world, neither inflated nor diminished. But aligned identity is not formed in a single moment of realization. It is shaped through repetition, reinforced through behavior, and stabilized through symbols. Among the most powerful of these symbols are visual signals. What you consistently see in the mirror, what others consistently see in you, and how you consistently present yourself all contribute to the architecture of who you believe you are. The mind absorbs images faster than words. Before logic intervenes, perception makes an imprint, and you are constantly imprinting yourself with your own visual message. Every day you send yourself cues about your identity. If you present yourself with intention, structured clothing, upright posture, deliberate grooming, you are rehearsing a version of yourself that is composed and self-directed. The subconscious does not argue with repetition. It accepts patterns as truth. Over time, the image you repeatedly embody begins to feel natural. You no longer feel like you are trying to be disciplined or confident. You begin to identify as someone who simply is. Visual signals act as feedback loops. When you dress and carry yourself like someone who respects their standards, your behavior subtly adjusts to avoid contradicting that image. You speak more carefully. You move with more certainty. You make decisions that align with the version of yourself you are presenting. The external image becomes a boundary, protecting you from slipping into behaviors that feel inconsistent with who you appear to be. The reverse is also true. If you consistently show up looking unprepared or careless, you reinforce a fragmented self-image. The mind begins to internalize the signal, this is who I am. Motivation weakens because the visual identity does not support ambition. The image becomes an anchor, pulling you back toward lower expectations. Identity, in this sense, is not just an internal narrative, it is an embodied experience. There is also a social dimension to this reinforcement. The world reflects back what you project. People respond to your visual signals with subtle adjustments in tone, respect, and opportunity. These responses then confirm your self-perception. If you present yourself as capable and composed, you are more likely to be treated accordingly, which strengthens your belief in your own capability. Identity becomes a collaborative construction between your internal world and the external reactions you invite. This process is not about pretending to be someone you are not. It is about consciously shaping the version of yourself you wish to grow into. The brain does not sharply distinguish between rehearsal and reality. When you visually embody confidence, structure, and intention, you reduce the psychological gap between aspiration and identity. You stop waiting to feel ready and begin practicing readiness. Consistency is the key. A single day of intentional presentation will not redefine you, but repeated visual alignment gradually stabilizes your self-concept. You begin to think, decide, and act from a place of reinforced identity rather than fleeting emotion. The image in the mirror stops being a random reflection and becomes a deliberate statement. In this way, visual signals are not superficial decorations. They are psychological anchors. They stabilize the story you tell yourself about who you are and who you are becoming of most. People wait for confidence as if it were a mood that must arrive before they begin. They tell themselves they will act once they feel ready, once doubt fades, once certainty appears. But confidence is not a prerequisite for action. It is a consequence of it. Feelings are unstable. They shift with sleep, stress, comparison, and circumstance. If you tie your progress to your emotions, you surrender control to something inherently unreliable. Action, however, is concrete. It is measurable. It is deliberate. When you act despite hesitation, you send a powerful signal to your psyche. Fear does not decide for me. That signal begins to reshape your internal hierarchy. Instead of emotions commanding behavior, behavior starts shaping emotions. The mind observes what you repeatedly do and adjusts its beliefs accordingly. If you consistently step forward, even while uncertain, the mind concludes that you are capable of stepping forward. Confidence is built through evidence, not imagined evidence, not motivational phrases, but lived proof. Each time you follow through on a commitment, maintain your standards, or present yourself with intention despite not feeling inspired, you create a memory of competence. These memories accumulate. Over time, they form a stable foundation beneath your self-perception. You no longer rely on temporary feelings of courage because you have demonstrated resilience through action. Waiting to feel confident before acting creates paralysis. Action creates momentum. Momentum reduces doubt. Reduced doubt strengthens confidence. It is a cycle, but it must begin with movement. The first step often feels artificial, almost forced. You may feel like you are pretending to be stronger than you are, but the body does not distinguish sharply between rehearsal and authenticity. When you stand upright, speak clearly, and move deliberately, even while nervous, your nervous system gradually recalibrates. There is also a deeper psychological shift that occurs when you prioritize action over emotion. You begin to detach identity from temporary states. You realize that feeling insecure does not mean you are incapable. Feeling anxious does not mean you are unworthy. Emotions become experiences rather than definitions. This detachment is liberating. It allows you to act consistently instead of conditionally. Discipline reinforces this process. When you maintain your standards, whether in appearance, work, or personal commitment, regardless of mood, you train yourself to trust your own reliability. Self-trust is the core of confidence. It is not loud. It does not need to announce itself. It is the quiet knowledge that you will show up even when you do not feel like it. Over time, something shifts. The actions that once required effort begin to feel natural. The posture you once forced becomes automatic. The clarity you once rehearsed becomes genuine. Confidence emerges not as excitement, but as steadiness. It is no longer dependent on applause or reassurance. It rests on a history of consistent action. Feelings fluctuate. Action accumulates. And in that accumulation, confidence takes root not as a gift granted by circumstance, but as a structure built by choice. Destiny is often imagined as something distant and mystical, as if it waits somewhere beyond effort, beyond daily decisions, beyond the ordinary rituals of life. But destiny is not only shaped in dramatic turning points, it is sculpted in the quiet consistency of how you show up each day. Intentional presentation is one of the most underestimated forces in that process. The way you choose to present yourself does not merely influence perception. It influences trajectory. Every environment you enter responds to signals. Before your skills are tested, before your ideas are evaluated, your presence establishes a tone. If your presentation reflects clarity, discipline, and self-respect, doors open differently, conversations unfold differently, opportunities circulate differently. This is not magic, it is psychology. People trust what appears structured. They invest in what appears stable. Your external order suggests internal reliability. Intentional presentation also elevates your own expectations. When you consistently show up with care and deliberation, you begin to feel misaligned in spaces that do not match your standard. You tolerate less chaos. You accept fewer compromises. Your environment starts to adjust to the level you embody. Destiny shifts when your tolerance shifts. What once seemed acceptable begins to feel limiting. What once felt intimidating begins to feel attainable. There is a powerful internal transformation that occurs when you decide that your presence will no longer be accidental. You move from drifting through circumstances to directing your experience, dressing with intention, maintaining posture, speaking with clarity. These are not shallow acts. They are daily declarations that you take yourself seriously. And when you take yourself seriously, others are more likely to do the same. Intentional presentation also creates alignment between vision and embodiment. Many people dream of a future self, but continue to show up as a former version of who they were. This creates friction. The mind struggles to believe in a destiny that the body does not rehearse. When you begin presenting yourself as the person you are becoming, you shorten the psychological distance between present and future. You make your ambition visible. You turn aspiration into rehearsal. Destiny is influenced by repetition. Small daily choices accumulate into identity, and identity shapes decision-making. Decision-making shapes outcome. When your presentation reflects confidence and structure, you are more likely to make choices that align with growth. You speak up when opportunities arise. You decline situations that dilute your standards. You pursue environments that reflect your evolving self-image. There is also an energetic shift in intentional presentation. You move through the world with awareness rather than passivity. You stop apologizing for occupying space. You stand with composure instead of hesitation. That composure affects how others interpret your potential, and interpretation influences invitation. Intentional presentation does not guarantee destiny, but it positions you for it. It aligns your inner ambition with your outer expression. It transforms daily routine into strategic embodiment. Over time, that embodiment compounds. What began as conscious effort becomes natural presence, and that presence quietly elevates the path you walk, shaping a future that reflects the standard you consistently display. So understand this, the mirror is not asking for your admiration, it is asking for your decision. Every day you stand before it, you are choosing whether you will move through life unconsciously or with intention, whether you will shrink into comfort or rise into discipline, whether you will treat your presence as accidental or as sacred. Do not wait for confidence to visit you. Do not wait for success to justify you. Show up as the person you are becoming now. Let your posture speak of strength before your voice does. Let your discipline be visible before your achievements are. Let your appearance reflect the respect you have decided to give yourself. Because when you honor your presentation, you honor your potential. When you refine your outer world, you stabilize your inner one. And when the inner and outer stand aligned, you stop chasing destiny, you begin embodying it. Walk into the world as if your life matters, because it does.